Say hello to Nemurelia, the most recently revealed archetype in Cyberstorm Access. And while this deck may appear to be a Pendulum archetype, but instead has a very unique playstyle, with its main monster, Dreaming Nemurelia, only being able to summon itself if your extra deck is empty, and the rest of the deck using face-down cards in your extra deck as fuel for their effects. And the payoff is one of the single strongest removal effects in the entire game's history, being able to banish up to 5 cards in the field or grave non-targeting face down. As for the specifics of the Nemurelia cards, well, thankfully there's not too many of them. As for the main one, Dreaming Nemurelia, it is a level 1 Pendulum Fairy monster with 0 attack and 1500 defense, and a Pendulum Scale of 8, although generally its Pendulum Scale isn't going to come up, at least not in this kind of list. As for its effects, its Pendulum effect is that once per turn, you can place one Nemurelia continuous spell card from your deck or grave face up on the field, and if you do, add this card to the extra deck face up. But you cannot special summon Dreaming the turn you activate this effect. And while this is a very strong effect, and it sets up pretty much the entire deck, because a continuous spell gets you to pretty much everything else relevant. Next, the monster effect is that Nemurelia cannot be normal summoned or set, but must be special summoned from your face-up extra deck by having no cards in your extra deck except Nemurelia. The Nemurelia special summons itself, it does not use Pendulum summoning to summon itself, and you can only summon it once per turn. As for its effect is that if this card is special summoned, you can banish up to 1 card your opponent controls and or in their graveyard face down for every 3 of your face down banished cards, then shuffle your down banished cards into the deck equal to the number of cards banished by this effect. This is one hell of a removal effect. As you'll probably recognize, the only way to summon Nemurelia is by having all 15 cards in your extra deck banished face down if you're running a full extra deck. So this means you get to banish 5 cards face down. This doesn't target nothing. Almost nothing can remove or ignore this effect outside of just straight up negating it. And if you're running something that banishes from your main deck, you get to remove even more cards. And the summoning condition may seem pretty hard to do, except for when you look at the other Nemurelia cards, such as their 2 other monsters, the level 10s. The deck has 2 level 10 main deck monsters that are not pendulums, instead effect monsters. Both of them are light beasts, and the Defender Aurelier has 2500 attack and 2000 defense, and Coet has 2000 attack and 2500 defense. They both share the same summon condition, where if you have a face-up Pendulum monster in your extra deck, you can special summon them from your hand, and you can only special summon this way once per turn. Then, they each have a different effect that requires you to banish a card from your extra deck face down to cause it. Aurelier has the ability to quick effect, banish a face down card from your extra deck face down, then Aurelier gains 500 attack for each monster your opponent controls until the end of the turn. Then, Coet has the ability where if a Nemurelia card is targeted by an opponent's card effect, you can banish a face-down card from your extra deck face down, negate the activation. So both of these are hard once per turns, but they're very good protection, especially in the context of their continuous spell. In a continuous spell, Sleeping Beauty Tower of Nemurelia is very strong because it lets you banish 2 face-down cards from your extra deck face down to add 2 level 10 beast monsters with different names from your deck to your hand, which mostly means Aurelier and Coet. Then, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck to turn you activate its effect, except for Pendulum monsters, which isn't too much of a problem. It does stop you from making rank 10s on the first turn, but it's fine. Then, the next effect is that, non-once per turn, if a Nemurelia monster you control will be destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect while you have a face-up Dreaming Nemurelia in the extra deck, you can banish 1 face-down card from your extra deck face down instead. So, basically this means that Dreaming Nemurelia is a 1-card way to make a board that is untargetable at least once and cannot be destroyed at all as long as you have fuel in the extra deck to banish. This is a very strong ability. This protection effect came up way more than I expected when I was testing the deck and proved to be a game winner. The last archetypal card is Sweet Dreams Nemurelia, and while this is the search spell, it just adds a Nemurelia monster from deck to your hand. Then if you have a face-up Dreaming Nemurelia in your extra deck, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects when a Nemurelia monster is normal or special summoned this turn. If you can get this second part of the effect to go off, this means that Dreaming Nemurelia's insane summon effect to banish cards cannot be interrupted. Then, the second effect is that you can place this card from your graveyard on the bottom of the deck, then target one Dreaming Nemurelia control, add it to the extra deck face up. Now this is a way to recycle a Nemurelia after you summoned it, or say you have one in the extra deck and one in the scale, you can place one in the scale into the extra deck, while also not interrupting the summon of the one in the extra deck. It's a flexible, nice little second effect that can definitely come up quite a lot. Now as the rest of the cards I'm playing in the deck, I am playing, most notably, Mayo Senju Dieback. You may be asking, why am I playing this? Well, you might notice it is a level 10 beast, which means you can search it off of Sleeping Beauty Tower. Then the other relevant part is that when it is summoned, you can target up to 2 cards in the field, return them to the hand. This is a very strong unsummon effect. You might be asking, how do I summon it? I can't pendulum summon it. Well, you can still tribute summon this card, and this is a deck that inherently has no normal summons, and conveniently has a way to get 2 monsters on the field very easily. Even outside of these 2 defenders, you can also use Bestials or Fenrir or Age of Millions to summon Mayo Senju. So Dieback is a very good way to get easy on-access removal, especially since it will usually take a couple turns to set up Dreaming Nemurelia. It's just a very powerful card, easy to search, and usually doesn't break you too much because it's quite easy to get out. Then I'm running 3 Dimension Shifter. Now, while if Dreaming Nemurelia is on the field and leaves the field, it will be banished if Shifter's online, you can't really summon Nemurelia turn 1. So Shifter has almost no negative effect on you, and I'm sure you know from this format, Shifter is an incredibly powerful card, so being able to play it with almost no downside is very good. Then I'm running a very heavy Bestial package of triple Magnamut, triple Jurisform, and 1 Serenir. Now my reasons for this is because this deck can sometimes kind of struggle with having big board presence or breaking boards and going second, and these are a reliable way to kind of reinforce yourself, and the deck doesn't have any kind of summon locks, so it doesn't really get bothered by it. It's just a nice, solid hand trap package. Similar reasons is why I'm running Fenrir to help going second or make your going first boards a little bit more formidable, because the deck doesn't really have any built-in negation or interruption. Then I'm running 3 Eater of Millions, because this is pretty much the best way to completely clear your extra deck to make a huge push with Dreaming, or to just remove annoying monsters in your opponent's field, because this card's removal is very good, and it's kind of annoying to get rid of. Then I'm running 3 Pot of Extravagance, because, well, it banishes tons of cards from your extra deck, you don't really care about any of the specific ones, and it lets you draw cards. The deck doesn't draw cards by any other effects, so it doesn't really hurt to have that drawback, and Pot of Greed is pretty good. Then I'm running 3 Banquet of Millions. This is for similar reasons. This can completely remove all the cards in your extra deck to make a big push of Dreaming, and it can often rip a huge amount of cards from your opponent's extra deck, maybe even stopping their combo. Say you hit a Kick Coloss, or both copies are Kick Coloss, you're fighting Tearlaments. It can skip their entire turn, then you follow back, summon Dreaming, and shuffle all of the cards, or at least a chunk of the cards you lost to Banquet back to the deck. Then I'm running 3 Summon Limit. This is probably the most changeable card. I ran it mostly because this deck can very much play a slow game, and often won't need to summon more than 2 times, but you can replace this with pretty much any card you want to. It's just a solid floodgate. It's here to just slow down the game a little bit, because the deck doesn't have a ton of big interruption power, so having a floodgate is nice. As for the extra deck, well, it's basically just a bunch of rank 10s, rank 6s, and rank 1. Just a bunch of XCs that might come up, mostly just as fodder. They're nice to run, you can change any of these. It's not really hard locked. I would definitely recommend running at least rank 6s, something like Wallow for the Bestials are running them, and especially rank 10s for the defenders. Another nice one is Gravity Controller, as this is a way to, say, use a spent Dreaming and put it back in the extra deck on command, so it's a nice card to have. Now, how do you actually play this deck? Well, it has a very easy and simple 1-card combo of Dreaming Nemurelia, which is not hard to get because the other spell can search it, you have Extrav, it's pretty consistent. Now, how does this combo go? Well, first you activate Dreaming, and then use Dreaming's Pendulum effect to put it into the extra deck and activate a continuous spell from your deck. Then you can go ahead and activate Sleeping Beauty Tower Nemurelia, use its effect to banish 2 cards from your extra deck, doesn't really matter what, and then add to your hand 2 level 10 beasts. This being Coet and Aurelia. Then, you go ahead and summon these 2. So what is this end board? Well, Aurelia can pump its own attack to make sure you don't get completely ran over by battle, but more importantly, Coet prevents a card you control from being targeted, and Tower prevents cards from you control from being destroyed by negating. Now Koei can only use its effect once, but it's still pretty good protection, but the most notable thing is Beauty Tower. This makes it incredibly hard for your opponent to bust through your board, because over and over again you can protect them. Now they could just remove Beauty Tower, but you can use Koei's targeting negation to just stop that at least once. They'll have to double Cosmic Cyclone something or Harpy Feather Duster your tower, which that won't feel very good. And keep in mind, you'll have 4 other cards in your hand besides this, so this end board could look much more terrifying. Now, for a better showcase of what the deck can do, how about a test duel? Now this is a duel against Invoked Libromancer, which is also running some OCG support, so this at least lets you see what that deck can do. Now to start off with, I will go ahead and activate Extravagance as you have to, because it has a main phase 1 restriction. Then I will go ahead and use the Dreaming Nemurelia combo to just search cards, but in this case I will grab Dieback as I already had Koei in my hand, and so I didn't really need to search another copy. As I said earlier, I had pretty much everything I needed, so Dieback for turn 2 is very nice. Unfortunately I drew Shifter, but that's fine. Next I'll go ahead and make the normal end board and pass. And on to my opponent. So here they will go for mostly normal invoke things, just summoning Alistair. But notably, when they eventually get through their whole line, they will have a Macabre, and then they go through some Libromancer things, making a bunch of different Libromancer rituals, basically trying to put lethal on board. But what they ended up knowing is that it's very hard to put lethal on board against this deck. It is very good at preventing that. Now one notable interaction that's about to happen here is that they will soon Ritual Summon. Eventually. And after Ritual Summoning, they can go ahead and use Libromancer Origins effect to destroy a Spell Trap card, which is a problem if not for Koei, which I can go ahead and use to negate the targeting effect. This does keep my tower on board, and afterwards they don't have any other way to get rid of it, which you'll see is a big issue. Now here I might have made a bit of a misplay. I probably could have just not activated Relier to keep it on board with Beauty's protection effect, but I chose not to. It's realistically fine, I could just search another one the following turn, but you might want it to not use this effect because Macabre here will negate it. It was kind of a gamble, just to see if they decided not to negate it or what. Regardless, I use that, and then they attack with Fire Burst, I protect Koei, and that's the end. Then on my turn I draw another Shifter, not great, but I can use Nemurelia again to search Aurelia and Koei. Then here I summon Eater of Millions to clear up my extra deck, and then I summon Dreaming Nemurelia. And here you will go ahead and get to see Nemurelia's effect. Because I have a bunch of face-down banished cards and they control plenty, I can go ahead and banish 5 of their cards. Actually, I can banish 6, because I banished 3 with Eater of Millions. A nice little effect you can do with Eater of Millions. But you can see the duel ended because their almost whole board got destroyed, and Firestars here, but I also had Dieback in my back pocket, which I could go ahead and Tribute Summon to just return both to hand, and that was the end of the duel. So, in conclusion, this deck is very powerful, very consistent, and has a ton of future potential. Even Wave 1, Dreaming Nemurelia, is such a strong blowout, with removal that's pretty much unmatched. The deck also has plenty of protection in the form of Defenders, and the Continuous spell, and the normal spell is a very nice consistency booster. And since it's such a compact, consistent engine, you have an insane amount of main deck space to fit about just anything you want in there. I'm sure some crazy hybrid variant is going to be found out at some point. This deck has plenty of potential, and it's just Wave 1. Wave 2 could take this deck to the next level. I can very easily see this deck becoming a top meta threat, especially if it has either an easier way to summon Nemurelia, or better things to be doing before. And that's all really. Feel free to subscribe if you liked the content and want to see more later on, and please do leave your feedback in the comments.